never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some dixies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house, and oh my god, I have a little scratchy voices today, but I'm gonna take a little sip of tea there in a few seconds. But I just want to welcome everybody. Today I have the incredible Anthony Neal Macri in the house, and we're going to be talking about the Calabria Food Fest that's happening in Italy. So anybody that wants to travel or take a nice trip or anything, we're going to give you some information on that today. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all those platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the podcast apps, listen notes, Spotify, Podbean, all those good platforms. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe, because each of these tea times do make a difference for the guests and for people who resonate with the stories that are being brought to the table. So let's get started with disclaimer and then an intro, and we're going to get Anthony in here, and we're going to spill some tea together. And today's tea is unconventional paths, powerful outcomes. That is the tea we are serving in the house today. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that are inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you're ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories travel across borders and culture is served with meaning. Today's guest brings us into the heart of Italy, not just through food, but through tradition, community, and connection. Please join me in welcoming Anthony Neal Macri, founder of the Calabrian Food Fest, coming to us from the beautiful regions of Calabria, Italy. Anthony's work goes far beyond cuisine. Calabrian Food Fest is a celebration of heritage, where food becomes a language of storytelling, bringing people together through shared meals, local traditions, and the rich cultural roots of the southern Italy. Through this festival, Anthony highlights the importance of preserving culture, supporting local communities, and reminding us that food is more than what we eat. It's how we connect, remember, and celebrate life together. So grab your cup and lean in. Today's Tea Time is about culture, community, and the beautiful way food brings the world closer. And let me get Anthony in here and let's spill some tea. Welcome, Anthony.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It is an honor to have you here. So, Anthony, let's start off with how I get all the teas out there. Who was Anthony as a little guy and who's Anthony now?
Well, well, no, it's not such a long story. An interesting journey. I've lived in Canada for most of my life. I just created an incredible career. I worked in some of the most incredible startups, still do today. My specialty remains, digital marketing, advising startups in user acquisition, getting them from zero to the first 10 million. That's always been my passion, I guess. Also my career, my calling, until right before beginning of COVID, I decided to move to Italy. And I guess COVID kind of sped up that process because I could either stay stuck in Canada. At that point, we really didn't know whether we could travel ever again. It was felt like the end of the world, and so I decided to make that move faster. So I found myself here in the south of Italy, where I've been living for the past 5 years, and where I had the opportunity of meeting another incredible travel expert. She owns a travel agency here based in Italy. And we together recreated the Calabria Food Fest. And before we delve into what the Calabrian Food Fest is and what I do today, I mean, what I do today is still pretty much what I've been doing my whole career, digital marketing, helping businesses grow, the strategy behind it, public relations, communications. This has always been my strength. Today, I do the same. I do it from a beach, much slower. I get to think outside the box. I always joke about this because instead of thinking outside the box, I actually stepped away from the box entirely. And I'm only in the hustle and bustle when needed, which helps me gain clarity and work a lot better for me, for my clients, but also from a creative perspective, it allows me to be a lot more creative since I've moved away from all the noise.
So from Canada, we have a question here for you, Anthony, and it's an amazing show. How did Anthony get inspired to move to Calabria?
Well, so since I was a kid, I mean, I'm of course I'm Italian. I'm of Italian descent. So, but since I was a kid, I spent all my summers here in the south on the beach, where my best memories with grandma, with grandpa. The summers were magical. It was the most incredible time of my life. And after having worked for 15 years in some of the fastest startups in Toronto, New York, and COVID, I knew that I didn't want to. I couldn't see myself doing that forever. I just felt like there was no. The speed wasn't productivity, and when you're in that sort of in that pace, you mix anxiety with productivity, speed with efficiency, when it's really not the case. And I think COVID, but not necessarily COVID, I think today's world, geographical location or my physical location doesn't really matter when it comes to my expertise and what I do from a work perspective. Actually, as I was saying before, since I moved to the south of Italy here in Calabria, the opportunities haven't really they haven't. I haven't seen personally a stop in my career. I've seen actually better clarity from my perspective in the projects I choose, and how I balance my personal life, my creativity, and what I'm able to offer my clients. So if before, it was okay to sleep 3 hours a night because that was the pace that I thought that was productivity, or that was what life was all about. I no longer think that. That doesn't mean that my career stopped. I think my career just sharpened, and I just became more aware of what are the things that I care about and what are the projects that I'm willing to take.
Well, we have another question here for you. Calabria looks incredible. Any tips for first-time visitors?
Well, the first tip, so Calabria is one of those places that for the longest time has remained unknown to mass tourism. And one of the things I had started saying before was I met this incredible woman, Angela Donato. She's the CEO of this travel agency, and we together last year we created for the first time the Calabrian Food Fest, which I think is the best way to personally visit Calabria. And it's a week-long traveling festival where people stay with locals throughout the region and experience in very small groups, intimate groups, what Calabria is all about. So it's not a big bus tour. It's not, and because one of the things that we wanted to do was we didn't want to create tourism that is to consume the place. It's about experiencing it. So, for example, if you were to visit a small, quaint village on the coast made of 600 people, showing up with a bus of 100, that's not tourism, that's an invasion. It's a terrible experience for the tourists, but it's also a terrible experience for the people that live there. So we wanted to do the exact opposite. We wanted to create these very small groups, very small experiences, and actually get people into people's homes, cook with nonnas. Because, for example, one of the most magical experiences that I remember from my childhood was cooking with grandma. And the table wasn't just, where you consume food. It was where culture started, where the family talked about tradition, where we talked about who we were, and we wanted to recreate that even for tourists because we didn't want to become just another travel product. Of course, we had an incredible success. So this year, we've created multiple groups, but the groups are never more than 10 people. That's because, of course, when we're talking to local nonnas, number one, they're like, I can't have more than 10 people in my house, and because most of the time they won't fit, but also because the experience wouldn't be as intimate. So the entire week has been designed to do two things: show Calabria for the tradition, what it was, where it comes from, and also teach about respecting the food, where it comes from, and who's making it. So it's not just about slapping it into a plate. We have incredible Michelin star chefs, but okay, so that incredible ricotta that made you famous in creating your signature dessert, where does it come from? Okay, so there is a family behind us making this cheese for 4 generations. They're as important as you are in that process. So we show our guests step one, which is let's go to the farm where this cheese is made. Then at dinner, we'll go to the Michelin star restaurant where you'll actually get to make that dessert with the chef. But it's about respecting the entire process on how that food gets into a plate. So we want to show that Calabria is, of course, an incredible region that looks at the future, is made of young people that want to do great things, and it has a very contemporary approach. But it's also a region that's very, very still attached to the tradition, and we have great respect for where we come from.
So, Anthony, is that where your Noma is?
Yeah. So my grandparents were both from here. So all my summers were spent here, and also some of my oldest friends that I still know to this day. We're all scattered around the world. Every summer, whenever possible, everyone still makes it to Calabria for a visit. So it's like old times. And Calabria is an interesting region because while the other regions have had, incredible marketing and incredible advertising in the past 50 years, Calabria still remains one of the most authentic places on earth. Authentic because it didn't need to make itself available to mass tourism. It never tried, and I don't think we are trying. And what's interesting is this year, the new slogan for this year's edition is it's where Italy begins. Most people don't know that the name Italy came from this region. The Greeks came when they settled and they created what was Agna Graecia, Greater Greece. And they came up with the name, but the name was it started here in Calabria. So there would be no Italy without Calabria. But those are all those things that people don't know, because Calabria has always been sort of underestimated on the international stage for a number of reasons. Every region has a marketing budget, and every region has done different things to market themselves. But what we also notice is that a lot of tourists globally they're tired of the big bus tours, the cookie cutter experiences. And I say this as an Italian, I love all of Italy. I find myself all over Italy constantly. I was in Rome last week, and Rome is one of my favorite cities in the world. But I do realize that for a tourist, it's very easy to feel like you're just a number. You're just in what feels like a Disneyland for adults. Everything is just very tourist trappy. You don't know where to eat. You don't know which attraction is worth it or not. Where in Calabria, you don't really have this problem. And to that point, last year, this project was financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Tourism. They bet on us, on the project. They were like, let's see if this can work. It did, of course. And we invited also some celebrities from all over the world, Hollywood influencers. One of them was Zane Phillips. He just finished an HBO show. One of the things that we told the guests that we invited for the first edition was, you've been to Rome, you've been to Rome, you've been to Venice, you've been to Milan, you've been to the Bulgari Hotel the Four Seasons, been to Capri. Now if you really want to, I guess, try the real Italy, the postcard one that when you get to Italy, you generally don't find in the touristy spots, come to Calabria. And all the guests were absolutely enchanted by an Italy that they didn't expect was still real. Zane Phillips, I remember he was making pasta with a nonna, and she slapped his hand because he wasn't making it right. And shortly after, he came to see me, and he's like, Anthony, that was one of the most incredible things I've ever done, because I lost my grandma a few years ago, but it reminded me. So that goes to prove that people do want to travel, but they also want to connect with the place. They don't just want to be dropped off the bus, and they also don't want to go home with a luggage full of photos or souvenirs. They want to go home with a heart full of memories.
I love that experience, right? Because you're giving them also history and a little storytelling through the experience. We have some questions that are coming in, Anthony, that I'd like to get out to you. And I like that people are getting the chance to go and stay in homes and actually learn about the heritage of Italy as well. The question that came in is, how can someone attend the Calabrian Food Fest?
This year we still have a few spots left. We are closing the sales to the Calabrian Food Fest April 15th. So I know for a fact there is a few spots left. If you're interested, the official website is calabriafoodfest.com, and you can get in touch with the team. It's probably going to be me that will see the email anyway. We can help you with the reservations if necessary. Though behind, as I was saying, there's a travel agency, Angela Donato. She's the CEO of the agency, and she's the one that's taking care of all the logistics when it comes to airport transfers. If you need flights, she can also take care of that as well. So yeah.
Another question for you, Anthony, is what makes Calabria different from other regions in Italy?
Well, all of Italy is beautiful. I love Italy. The entire country is just, you could spend a lifetime, and I say that as an Italian, and discover a new town, a new village, a new food. It's incredible. What I think what Calabria is different than any other places is that we have two seas. We have the Tyrrhenian Sea, the Ionian Sea, which the Ionian Sea looks out to Greece. And in the middle, we actually have two very different types of mountainous, I guess, vegetation and terrain. For example, if you go into the Sila area, which is the northern side of Calabria, it looks like the United States. It looks like Virginia. In fact, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Hey Joe with James Franco, was actually filmed in Sila. And because he was a soldier that was in Italy during the war, and then he went back to Italy. Funny thing is, the scenes where they shot where he was in Virginia and his house in the US was actually shot in Sila, which is in Calabria, because the terrain looks exactly the same. And then if you go a little south on the same mountains, you get very, very similar terrain, mountain terrain as the Alps. So what makes it interesting and unique is that you can virtually be on the beach, and I've done this year at Christmas. I was with my feet in the water in the ocean, and I was looking up in the mountains, and there was snow. That's because within 45-minute drive, you can find snow, and you can go down the hill and find incredible beach that's, you're on the Mediterranean. That's something that another region in Italy can say and has. But when it comes to food, it's also one of the only regions that has spicy food, which is an interesting. I guess it's because of our roots. We've been invaded, by the Greeks, by the Arabs, so all of this have created what is a mix of very, very eclectic, strange mix of foods. So oregano is technically a Greek sort of spice, but we have it. We also have a wine that's called white Greek, which is funny because genetically it's a grape it's actually a Greek grape that's no longer available in Greece. But the Greeks, when they came and invaded our coast, they had dried grapes on the boats, so they dropped it on our coast. We still have that grape, which is a great wine we drink from our coast, but in Greece they don't have it. We're the only one that have it. But it's still considered a Greek white.
Oh,
So
wow,
there's
we get to learn so much through you, Anthony, with this experience and conversation. And that's what I like about having different conversations with different countries and different guests, because we learn right through heritage and culture and all that good stuff. We have a question here. How can global audience get involved in this movement? Is this a movement, or is this like an annual fest? Like, what could you share a little bit more on that?
This is an event that goes every year from June 16 to the 23rd. We chose on purpose this date because we want to start the summer solstice is on the 21st. So every year will always be this date. As of now, we're welcoming groups from all over the world, and we have partners from all over the world that are, creating groups. We've created experiences that are in Calabria, and the goal is to integrate into the community when they come. But for example, we have a Latin American nutritionist that works in television, together with a yoga expert. They've created their own group where they're coming to take part in the experience. And we've designed a week-long experience made out of wellness, food in the territory. So they're experiencing Calabria in a different way, always being part of the community. So it's also because we want to show that Calabria can be a lot of different things. For a wine lover, it would be incredible going around and visiting all the wineries. For somebody that's a nutritionist or that doesn't drink, that would be a horrible nightmare. So it's about modulating and creating the right experience based on the group. So it is a movement because we are working with virtually all sorts of groups from all over the world. They've seen what we've done last year on Instagram. If you go on Calabrian Food Fest, you'll see all the different guests that we had last year. And some of these guests have expressed their interest in coming back with their own friends, their own groups, like the actor Zane Phillips. The only thing that brings us all together as the concept for the Calabrian Food Fest is for 2 nights, we have access to a 15th century castle. Well, all the groups, regardless of, the yoga group, the food group, the wine group, whatever group, we all gather together in this 15th century castle in Squillace, which is on the Gulf. And where we have a gala dinner, red carpet, and it's a celebration of Calabria for the guests. And that's where also all the chefs that the guests have met throughout the week will also get to enjoy a full dinner. So the same chefs will be cooking a gala dinner for the guests. So everything they pretty much, if we've learned about bergamots, which is a Calabria product, fileia type of pasta, or nduja, which is a type of sausage, all those products will all be brought to life into one gala dinner with entertainment. We'll all celebrate together. And what we generally say, it's not a goodbye, it's a see you again, because generally speaking, people keep coming back after the experience.
Well, Anthony, we have a question here. What challenges did you face building this cultural platform?
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't say it was, well, there are two sides of it. One, the challenges is from a commercial perspective, and I say this from a marketing perspective, is that it's very hard to present a product even to institutions and potential business supporting you, saying it is a festival for 10 people at a time, because it doesn't sound like it's something that can scale. And of course, that's also very tough to sell it to, as I said, institutions. I mean, how can you go and say, I want to bring 15 people to Calabria, now finance it and believe in this project? So that was definitely a challenge. Of course, we proved them wrong, or at least we proved the project, the concept, because out of 15 now this year we have 70 people, which means 7 groups. It's not 1, it's 7. We hope to continue growing. Other challenges in the community, like local community, I did not find. I think most people want to meet other people, other cultures. They're happy to welcome them in their house, but there is a limit to everything, which means that, as I said before, don't come here looking to consume the place. Come here looking to savor it, to experience it. And that's part of our goal. Our goal is to create tourism that's regenerative. The tourist doesn't come here and take something. If you take something, you're also going to leave something, and it's not necessarily financial. It's about that continuous exchange where both communities, you leave Calabria enriched, and also the local community is left with something as well. So it's that sustainable tourism that doesn't end up, absolutely consuming the region, as we've seen happen in other places here in Italy, but also other places in the world. So part of our objective was, let's try to create something where, instead of bringing 70 people to a mega restaurant that can handle that massive amount of people at once, let's do 7 groups with 7 different nonnas in 7 different areas of the region that are unexplored. So the whole community waits for them because it's excited to see who are these 10 people. We want to meet them, and this happened, for example, last year. I brought the guests, the VIPs, the influencers to the local market in the town where I live. And of course, everyone excited. I lost track of all of them. I didn't know where any of them were. I was like, okay, guys, see you guys in 2 hours at this location. I texted them. And, some of them came back and they were like, oh, I had coffee in some old lady's house. She was so cute. I'm like, how did you do that? She's like, oh, she's like, you want a coffee? And I was like, yeah. They're like, okay, come in. So, those are those authentic experiences that number one, you can't fake. As much as you could try to plan it and make sure that it does, but you can't. Those are things that can only happen when there is that harmony between the people that come and the people that are here that are waiting for those people. But it can be an invasion. It has to be something that's very harmonic and very balanced.
Well, we have a couple more questions that just popped in. How does food storytelling impact tourism growth?
Well, I think as I was saying before, I think food is itself memory, and I see it. And I actually learned this. I discovered the importance of food as an adult when I moved back, because a lot of the foods that I ate as a kid, as a kid, you don't really care about what's behind. Why does it matter, or why is it made this way? You just eat it. I think food, from my perspective, when it comes to cultural tourism or tourism that's sustainable, I think food is the starting point. Like one example I like to use all the time is that, for example, there's this pasta that's it's called aglio olio peperoncino, which means garlic, It's garlic, chili pepper, and oil. And the reason why this pasta was born is because you stale bread, you toast it in a pan, then you put some oil, garlic, and chili pepper. That was a pasta. But the reason it was born is because if you had stale bread, you didn't want to throw it out because, of course, poverty. And throwing out bread was not something you could do. So there was a way to create sort of a texture on pasta because you had just garlic and chili pepper and oil, which is not a topping for a pasta. But the stale bread that was toasted in a pan, that became so something that you could throw out. It became the most precious thing on an actual plate of pasta, and that's a bit what I think storytelling is. I think if you start from just as simple as that, saying the importance of bread, that family that had bread was considered rich. But the problem is if that bread is stale, you can't throw it out because it's a sin. So what you do, you invent something that becomes now what it is now, a dish that Calabrians eat all the time. I personally, I love it. If a restaurant makes it, I'm ordering it. But it's extremely simple. There's nothing complex about it. So I think storytelling, should start in many places and in many cases from the food. I think food is where everything begins, and the table. The table is, at least in Italy, I'm not sure in other cultures, but for Italians, for me personally, but for Italians, I think the table is where culture has been passed down from generation to generation. I still think about some of the conversations I had with the elders and my grandparents. This was at the Sunday table.
I'm getting a lot from this conversation is conserving, right? Saving those memories and then bringing them back to the table. And my daughter is dating an Italian, and they do a lot of family get-togethers and a lot of cooking together, and that's their time of bonding. So did you find that as a child growing up that was bonding time, like with grandma and grandpa and like with relatives with the food, and that's why the food is such a passion for you, Anthony?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember the whole like family gathering, being together, the good aspects of it, not the not so good, the annoying aspects of it as well. This is definitely part of the my upbringing, and what I also cherish and I remember, and I think about that as an adult, is that when you were at an uncle's house or aunt's house or your grandparents' house, and you weren't only the responsibility as a child of your parents, you were a family responsibility. If you misbehaved, you would disappoint not one, not two people, you would disappoint 27 people at the table. So it was also this sort of like constantly learning of how to also interact with society, because it wasn't just your close family. It could be friends, they could be friends of friends that were at the table, and it was this constant learning experience on how to behave at the table, but also what adults are saying. You were never really separated, you were just there and you had to behave, and food was always the centerpiece of it all. And the rituals behind it, like I remember, and still to this day, if I go for a walk at the local market and I see a certain ingredient, the other day I saw asparagus, because it is the season, we eat seasonally here. I remember what my grandma said was like, whatever the season gives you, that's what you eat because your body needs it. And if you go looking at, and then I looked into it, and as crazy as that sounds, technically all the foods based on at least here in the Mediterranean, all the foods that you get seasonally also provide you with all the vitamins that you need to survive the season in a healthy way. So in the winter, you get oranges, you get all the fruit that has vitamin C. You need that for the colds. You just get it from the market. You don't, like, it's something that the land just provides. And also, you got the market, you see a product, like, as I said the other day, I saw the asparagus, and automatically you start thinking of all the recipes of the season. But it's not just you, it's all the people around you. I was buying asparagus, and a couple of older ladies, they were like, what are you making with it? And I was like, I don't know. It was like maybe a risotto. And they started telling me, how do you make it? I was like, was like, I don't know. I was like, I probably suck the way I make it, you know. But I said, I tried to say, you know, they weren't very impressed with my way of making it, but they also told me how to make it correctly. So there was also another way of engaging with the tradition. You know, I was like, okay, tell me. I'm sure you know it better than I do. And that's ultimately what was at the core when we thought about Calabrian Food Fest. It wasn't just, you know, a food festival where people just go and eat. It was about, let's start from the food and then move outwards to the entire culture, to the geography and the places. Bergamot, why does it grow in this area? Why is it important historically? Why was it important? Nduja, how was it born? Why is the fish more consumed on the coast and not on the mountains? All those things, yes, there are products, yes, we consume them, but in every region, in every area, even in some villages are consumed and some others not, So I think that's where it all started. We wanted to tell about an incredible region, but starting from the food, which is our most cherished memory.
Well, we have a couple more questions that just popped in, and then I have a couple questions here for you as well, Anthony, that I'd like to get over to you. What is the long-term vision for the Food Fest?
Well, the long-term vision for the Food Fest is to create an engine, interest into the region, controlled interest. What I mean, it sounds terrible because it sounds like something so contrived. No, we want to create interest in people that want to come to Calabria to experience it with the right mindset, and they are looking for a place to connect, to slow down, and also to discover an Italy that's not necessarily available anywhere else in the country. That's a long term. Realistically, we would love to be able to bring 1,000 people a year in Calabria, but always in a way that's sustainable and respectful of course, the people that live here.
I like that you got that in there, the respectful, because a lot of people, they just travel just to travel, right? Just because they can. And you're making this an experience, a memorable experience, so that they'll want to go back, or they'll go home and they'll say, you know what, that was the best experience I've ever had.
Of course.
Get good feedback. The next question that came in for you is, what role does digital strategy play in promoting culture?
Well, this event, this cultural event, this tour, however we want to call it, was born digital. And culture is virtually everything. And in today's world, if you want to promote anything, whether it's an event, a festival, without the digital strategy, you're not going to go anywhere. That's why, from our perspective, last year we decided to invite a series of influencers, a series of tastemakers, chefs from all over the world, and what I asked them was, I will not be giving you guidelines on what you're supposed to say. I do this for a living, creating a brief and working with influencers and creators and say, this is what you're going to say. This is the messaging. This is the hashtag. For this festival, for this event, I said, come with an open heart and tell whatever you see through your own eyes. Of course, because I thought that would be the most authentic way. And I told them, if I'm selling you something authentic and I'm telling you it is authentic, you need to authentically communicate it in your own way. And I will not be telling you any tagline. You just go out and experience it. And it worked incredibly, because last year we've had, I think it was about 32 million interactions in a week.
Ooh.
Yeah. So during the week, the account, and we used a series of tools to measure what the impact had been on social media globally. It was about 32 million interactions. So from my perspective, from a digital marketing expert, it was an incredible success, because everyone, from each one's perspective, as I said, we had wellness influencers. They were, showing themselves walking or running on the beach at 6 in the morning and being like, look how beautiful this is. Some others were cooking with local chefs. Some went fishing with like older men. That to me is the most authentic way of communicating culture, and that's because it is authentic. There's no script.
You know, and I love it because that's the best experience. You know,
It's for them, for the guests, but it's also for the people that live here. I couldn't possibly ask one of the local nonnas or nonnos or whoever, you're gonna say this, or it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because they wouldn't do it, and for that I
yeah.
love them. But also I wouldn't want to do it because it's not sustainable and it would come across as super fake. And I see this in many destinations, not in Italy, but in general, it could be anywhere, where they're exasperating the word authentic with videos that at a skin level feel everything but authentic. So, and that's why I went radically the opposite of that direction, where I was like, I will give you no direction whatsoever. Do whatever you want. Even the nonna slapping the guy's hand, being like, you suck at this. That's not how you make pasta. That was authentic because he was sucking. Like that wasn't good, you know. But that's authentic. That's a nonna telling you you're not good at this. But come, I'll show you. You can learn. But those are the moments that I think people do want, and I think ultimately people do want to connect to a place. And as I said before, people want to go back home from a trip with a heart full of memories, not with a luggage full of souvenirs and Instagram photos.
Exactly, right? Because who ends up with all of that stuff when someone passes away, right? It just keeps getting pushed to somewhere else where you can share the memory and the moment for a lifetime. You can put it into a story. You can share it with your children when you get home. What feedback have you gotten from the locals on this event?
Everyone has been super, super excited. I've seen some of these people throughout the year after the event, after the tour. And one of them is the mother of one of my friends, and she's one of the nonnas. And she's asking me, she's like, when are we doing it again? How are these people doing? And then I've also had we've had interest coming from other nonnas, other restaurants, other little activities that are like, we would love to take part in this, and that is a positive signal, because that means that what we're doing is not, it's something that the community is seeing it as a positive thing. We're not trying to invade or disrespect or consume what they do, just as if it was another product to be used and discarded. That's a positive signal. That means that they do want to be part of it. We've been contacted by little farms that make mozzarella, farms that make bread, all sorts of different things. And this is exciting because that means that, as I said, they loved it, and it also makes our life easier, because that means we have partners all over the region that want to do this. So it's very exciting.
I like that you're keeping the heritage alive, and the culture alive, bringing back that old, my Oma taught me a lot from Germany, and, she was like, nope, that's not the way we do it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But yeah, that's what we need. We need that connection. We need that family bond, and, learn from the elders, learn from the people who brought it to the table to begin with. A question I have here for you is, what has been the most powerful moment you've experienced so far while building this festival?
I think the most powerful has been when this was at the castle, when, as I was saying before, we all gather in this 15th century castle in Squillace, and we got the results of the numbers for the week, and we were about to go have our gala dinner, and that was incredible, because when I got on the stage and all the guests, all the influencers, VIPs were there, and we also had the farmers, the producers that were invited, and when I got on stage, they were like, what's your comment? I was like, honestly, as a creative director, And as a co-creator of the tour, of the event, all I can say is thank you to you guys. You guys have made my job virtually um, the easiest, because I didn't really have to do anything. You guys did everything, and I couldn't have imagined a better outcome. And I mean, I was absolutely exhausted, because for a week I barely slept. I was, running around with the guests, making sure that all those experiences and everything would run smoothly. But that was, I think, I was so exhausted. I honestly, I had prepared even a speech, but I couldn't even find the paper in my pocket. So I was like, I'm just super happy. I was like, you guys made my job so easy. I wanted authenticity, and you guys gave it. So that was for me the most incredible moment.
Well, and seeing all of that come together, I bet you it was a heartfelt moment as well.
Yeah, for sure. As I said, it was incredible just to see everyone together at the castle, celebrating this final moment, where the guests were, some of them before they left, they were crying, because they were like, this was the most incredible experience I've ever done. And as I said, this some of them weren't people that never traveled. These are people that travel fairly often, and they can afford five-star luxury hotels, resorts. Um, but they were marked, or they were, I guess, not shocked, but they were moved sometimes by the smallest things. It wasn't the luxury, and that's when we came up with this term, which is luxury of the essential. When the essential things that you truly need are authentic and really good, you don't need all the extra stuff for it to be luxury, because the essential, everything you need is just perfect. Some of the guests were like, it's incredible, because I sat down in a piazza, and I chatted with the locals, and I felt like I was in, because those are the moments that, as I said before, you can't fake. But those are also the magic moments. Somebody leaves and says, that for me was special.
So for you, Anthony, what food stands out for you? Like what dish represents Calabria for you?
Sorry.
What dish or food represents Calabria for you?
For me, the most Calabrian food would be paccheri, which is a tube pasta. It's like short tubular pasta, short, incredible, with swordfish.
Oh, swordfish.
Yeah,
Wow.
we actually have some of. There is also, I believe, there is only 8 classical boats, like the original boats for swordfish fishing. 7 of them are in Calabria, and one of them is in Sicily. The other ones are gone forever. We still have them, and there's still families that do, every day, go and catch swordfish. So swordfish is very, very ingrained in Calabrian culture, and this is another little story, which is fascinating. Is about, it's sad, but I think it's also, it's a moving story of how you fish for swordfish. You always try, the fishermen always try to catch the female swordfish first, because it guarantees them 2 swordfish, because the male will continue looking for her under the boat, which means you also gonna get the male. So the families that do this professionally, which, because it's very dangerous, they always prioritize the female swordfish, because they know they'll also get a male, which means double the bounty.
So how do you know the difference between the female and the male?
I don't know, but they know. I have no idea. They told me once, but there is a way.
Like, do they have sensors or something, or it's a different look on
No,
a fish?
they know, but even seeing the families that do swordfish fishing is an experience of its own. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, the boat has like a tower that's like super thin, 30 meters, and then there's the nose, which is like 20 meters. The one at the top screams at the one at the front when they see them. it's a rush seeing it. But as I said, these are families that have been doing it for like 3-4 generations. So they know. I don't know. I just enjoy my pasta with swordfish.
So you don't know if you're eating the female or the male, right?
No. I don't think there is a difference in taste. I think they know how to recognize it. I think it has something to do with the top part.
Oh,
If
that
I
makes
remember
sense.
correctly,
Yeah, the
but
fin.
I might be completely wrong. But I don't think from a flavor perspective it makes a difference.
Oh, well, cool. And one word that describes Calabria: spirit.
Huh. Courageous.
Courageous. Oh, is there a lot of courageous people in that community?
I think so. I think the region has had, as I was saying before, has its history, and it hasn't always been easy. Particularly because being a region that mostly in the past has survived off of agriculture, where other regions have experienced aggressive industrialization. I would definitely say that it is a courageous region, and it's also a region that's very matriarchal. The mothers, the women, they're the protector and the heads of the family, which makes it a very, very, very magical place from that perspective, I think.
Well, we just had a question that popped in, and it's how can small regions replicate this kind of success?
Well, Calabria is a small region, very, very small. I would say from a population perspective, it's very, very small. So I don't think it's necessarily. I wouldn't worry too much about the dimension of the population or the region. I think it's about first understanding what the place has to offer, who the people behind it that matter are, meaning the history. And you can virtually do it for any region, any place on earth. I've been lucky enough to travel to about 74 countries in my lifetime, and there hasn't been a place that hasn't left me something. So I think it's just a matter of replicating and figuring out how to tell the story and making sure that in telling the story you involve the right actors in it, which are the people that make the history possible. That history, they're the ones that should be telling it. So not so that you don't descend into what is a documentary, but you just get the people that are making that history and made that story, and you let them tell the story. And then if there is food, it's always better.
So, Anthony, for you, is it food or storytelling? Which connects people faster?
Food.
Why?
I think let's put it this way: if you have a table and you put a storyteller, even the most incredible storyteller, to tell a story, people won't connect. You sit 10 people at a table, you give them good wine and good food. In an hour, they're going to be best friends.
And if Calgary Food Fest were a feeling, what would it be?
Discovery.
Oh, I like that word. Because that's what we actually did this afternoon is we discovered a lot of stuff. We have a question that just came in, and it says, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start?
To start, I guess, an event or a tour. Yeah, as I was saying before, start with the food, start with the people that make it. Actually, I would probably go back and say, start with the people that make it, the families, the producers, and then figure out where that food is used, where that food is being consumed and transformed. That already you have a story, because you have the people that make it, you have the people that procure it, and the people that transform it, and then the people that eat it. That in itself is already an incredible storytelling exercise. And then if at the end there's a table, as I said, with a group of people, then you have both. You have incredible storytelling, you have incredible food and storytelling.
I'm kind of glad that you said food first, because I'm a food person too. And I like trying different foods and different tastes and different ways of creating food. Have you seen different spaghetti sauce and stuff like that made in Italy, and you're like, "Ooh, that's different"? My Oma doesn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Canada, I mean, as I said, I've been lucky enough to have learned from my mother and my grandparents how to make sauce. So honestly, I've never purchased that already made sauce. I think I don't know. I'd rather not comment. Friends have made me try some. I think some of them could be defined as crimes against humanity. Personally, because they're terrible. but but yeah, no. I mean, having moved to Italy, I've definitely discovered a whole. Personally, I've discovered to respect food a lot more than I did before. What I mean by that is respect because you respect the seasons, but you also respect the people that make it. And in when I was in New York, when I was in Toronto, and this is something that now a bit bothers me, but that's personal. And I've learned this from a chef, a local chef. In Toronto and New York was fairly often you find this molecular restaurant that would give you like a tomato foam. And living in Calabria or in Italy, I wouldn't say I find it offensive because I'm not offended, but I think if you have an incredible tomato, there is absolutely no reason why you need to turn it into foam. Just bite the damn thing. It makes no sense. Like respect the food for what it is. There is absolutely no reason you need to transform it into something that looks like something different. I get it, it's art, and I respect the skill set behind it. But living in Italy has taught me how to respect the food a lot more and the seasons because I also have met the people that do make it, and I know the hard work that goes behind making one tomato, that goes making one lettuce head. Now I think twice about throwing out food, and I've learned a lot from the locals how to reuse food. So before I was saying, the pasta with distilled bread that gets toasted on the pasta. Those are all ways that you learn only when the local communities in the history, not today, of course, but in the past when they experience hardship. Those are dishes that came exactly from that. But they also teach you that the food is extremely precious. Just because today you can afford 4 tomatoes, you can throw 2 without thinking about it. It's still offensive to the food, and it is offensive to the people that work so hard to make it.
Well, I'm going to wrap up with your tea because the tea that you gave me, Anthony, was unconventional paths and powerful outcomes. Why'd you give me those words for your tea?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, because I never thought I would be I never thought I would be living in the south of Italy, and I never thought I would be spearheading or co-creating a cultural event of this magnitude ever. Because my path was to continue working as an executive, as a vice president of an agency, digital marketing of a startup, whatever. As I said before, I have an incredible career in the digital world as a consultant, as a digital strategist. So that was the easy path. That's what I expected that I would continue doing, and I'm still doing. I just didn't expect I would be doing it from a small 9,000 people village on the Mediterranean in Calabria, while also trying to advertise this place as the most magical and incredible place on earth. So that was kind of like the outcome that nobody expected. Me and nobody others in my family.
And Anthony, what's your final message for everybody today?
Travel, always travel. Looking to connect with the local communities, one. Speed is not performance. And also final. In today's world, your physical, geographical location has no impact on your opportunities from a career perspective.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me and sharing so much. We learned so much history, so much good stuff, and we had some incredible questions come in. I'm just going to do a wrap up, and then we're going to close this tea time down, and we'll be back at 7 p.m. with the second tea time of today. What a flavorful and meaningful conversation. Anthony, thank you for reminding us that food is not just nourishment for the body, it is nourishment for the soul. Through Calabria's Food Fest, you've shown us how culture, tradition, and connection can come alive through something as simple and powerful as a shared meal. This afternoon, we were reminded that when we gather, when we share, and when we honor where we come from, we create moments that stay with us far beyond the table. To everyone listening, here is something to carry with you after this tea time. When was the last time you truly slowed down and experienced a meal? Not just the food, but for the connection it brings. Until our next cup, keep sharing, keep exploring cultures, keep gathering with intentions, and keep celebrating the stories that bring us together. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m.